I am Dr. Prashant working as an assistant professor at the Department of Geography, Shivaji University. I have nearly 13 years of PG teaching experience, and with this experience, I will try to bring the best for you. So friends, kindly support my YouTube channel, please share, subscribe, and like this video if you get any value out of this. This video is about the flood disaster, which is currently a burning issue in most parts of the world. We, the resident of Kolhapur city, facing flood problems very often. So that's why I tried to present my research outcomes in front of you with my research guide Dr. K.C. Ramotra, former head of the Geography Department. As per our research, when we consider flood control approaches, it includes both structural and non-structural measures. According to a book published by Asworth and Little in 2006, structural measures includes the building of protective structures, lining stream banks with levees and concrete or masonry walls, flood walls, to physically prevent the floodwater from leaving the channel, constructing dry channels known as floodway to carry extra water during times of flood, and building upstream dams to catch the floodwaters and release them slowly. Stream channelization is also a structural means of flood control. Whereas a non-structural approach focuses on zoning and other methods to discourage the construction of buildings on the floodplain. They also aim at reducing flood crests through watershed control, such as the planting of trees and other vegetation to increase the infiltration rate during storms. Therefore, as per our opinion, the ideal condition is a mixture of both structural and non-structural measures. Here we are going to represent some of the structural and non-structural measures that we need to implement in the case of Kolhapur city to reduce the flood impact to a certain extent. The first and most important structural measure for Kolhapur city is the river channel clearing. The old stream of the river in the city tends to become silt up due to its sharp turn after the confluence at the Prayag-Chikali village that leads to holding the backwater. As and when there is abundant rainfall and release of water from dams situated at an upper site, it increases the water level there. It makes the river overflow at the Prayag-Chikali village. So deep cleaning of such channels is very necessary to allow the water to flow rapidly. This sort of management can certainly reduce the local flooding problem. The second way to reduce the flood losses is to create raised platforms both for men and animals. It is urgently needed in Chie, Hanumantwadi, Ambiwadi, and Prayag-Chikali villages, where a large number of settlements are located on the floodplain. Therefore, these villages get entirely submerged under the floodwater. There is hardly any safer place for the people. So it is inferred that the people of these flood-affected villages should be shifted to a safer place. The third way is to construct a small dry channel or floodway for the Kumi River. Because the sharp turn of the Kumi River near the confluence at Prayag-Chikali village responsible for excessive flooding in Hanumantwadi village and Shingnapur village. Apart from that, to some extent, Padli Budrik and Warnj villages were also flooded by this river. This happened because the highly sinuous channel of the Kumi River was unable to manage the additional water during heavy rainfall periods. So there is a need to construct the dry channel or floodway for the Kumi River from the south boundary of the Hanumantwadi village and the north boundary of the Shinganipur village to the Panchganga River near southwest of the Prayag-Chikali village, the length of which is about 1.5 to 2 km. But it increases the flood level farther down the river, but at least reduces the disaster loss at the risky place. Besides these structural measures, we have to consider flood risk planning with the help of non-structural measures, popularly known as a floodplain zoning. Here we are going to discuss non-structural measures or floodplain zoning one by one. There should be a restriction on the construction of artificial structures over floodplain that leads to the rising level of the floodplain. Concretization reduces infiltration capacity of the floodplain, resultant runoff increases and convert it into devastating flood situation. Prohibition on the dumping of raw material in or near the river channel is also needed. Our important recommendation is that the powers are given to the local government to remove or modify the obstructions in the floodway. Besides that, there is a need for a prohibition on the construction of public and social institutions such as schools, hospitals, jails, etc. at the susceptible zone to frequent flooding. It is the zone where the flood occurs once in 3 or 5 years. In the case of the Kolhapur, disastrous floods occurred at an interval of every 3 or 5 years. The history of recent floods shows that there were disastrous floods in the years 1989, 1994, 1998, and 2005, 2006, 2019, and 2021. So there is a need to avoid construction in the susceptible zone of flooding. Revegetation and reforestation is very essential in the floodplain of the Panchaganga River. Reforestation can help to percolate water under the ground and this avoids the rapid runoff of large quantities of water during the flood period. Increase the proportion of installation of rain gauges at strategic points in the floodline areas to assist in operating the flood control reservoirs. The construction of the wells and percolation tanks in each of such flood-prone areas should be made so that the heavy runoff can be diverted through nalas. Floodplain zoning also involves flood preparedness. Preparedness means informing the population about flood risks and what to do in the event of a flood, so there are two conditions relating to preparedness. First one is pre-disaster preparedness and the second is post-disaster preparedness. The pre-disaster preparedness for the Kolhapur includes the following points: get the local level, the formation of emergency flood control centers with the arrangement of trained local persons. Bringing awareness among the people likely to be affected by floods by making the announcement by local authorities as well as the apex body like meteorological department regarding the rainfall and water storage in the nearby dams. There would be proper coordination between state government, district government, local level authorities, and NGOs to provide instant help to affected places. The power supply and wireless arrangement during such calamity hours should be made. For the awareness of the general public, informative talks regarding flood disaster preparedness would be broadcast. For improving maintenance and preparedness, the regular inspections from the authorities should be done. There is a need to develop stronger cooperation between local government and research communities associated with flood disaster management. The identification of the flood-prone area to develop and implement the flood risk maps as a tool for planning. The flood risk maps provide information regarding flood risk zone in an area. As a result, awareness of the people related to flood risk would be increased, and resulting flood damage decreased. The government provides permanent electric boats and wireless sets to every flood-affected gram panchayat. The post-disaster preparedness includes the following points: massive relief operations should be mounted by the government. Regenerate, renew and recover the infrastructure and economic activities in the flood-affected area. The women volunteers would also be included in the Flood Relief and Rescue Committee, because women in rural areas are mostly shy, therefore these women do not go for free medical checkups provided by the government. To maintain water quality, government should provide chlorine tablets and ORS packets in collaboration with local authorized persons and increase the awareness among people regarding the use of chlorine tablets. Assistance from the government for agricultural loss would be at least equal to land recreation costs so that the poor farmers would be able to reclaim their land. Provision of suitable compensation and soft loans for rehabilitation of the flood-affected people to bring them back to normal life. Feedback meetings should be organized by the affected state government after every flood event. The experts should be invited from each affected district, and discussion on the flood-related issues should be made. The next aspect in floodplain zoning is flood insurance. Flood insurance is also an important way to increase the confidence of people residing in a flood-prone area. Many private insurance companies give such kinds of facilities which are useful to re-establish the common life. Flood insurance involves much more than collecting premiums and paying out on claims. If it is to be an effective means of maintaining and enhancing resilience by transferring risks, then it must explore the wider meaning of this risk. Besides that, risk transfer is also playing an important role in the provision of relief to flood-affected people. It is nothing but imposing individual loss over the government. This means through financial devices like emergency aid, compensation, etc. government should help the maximum affected people. Thank you so much for watching my channel. Have a good day.